like it's a kidney tray, like that's what people throw up in hospitals. And it's the shape of a kidney, and I think they call it a kidney tray or something like that. And we were gonna fill it with like kidney beans, but we're like, that's lame, who wants kidney beans? So we got a whole bunch of like jelly beans kind of in the shape of kidneys, and we were like, and we were like just like sitting there, and we were like, oh, I brought you something. And like that wasn't like that was pretty typical for us. Like we always like, we bring gifts and stuff, and she was like, oh cute, like, like you're giving me a bowl of jelly beans. It's so weird, but like, and then we were like, no, I have a kidney for you. And she's like, haha, so cute, because we were celebrating that she had a match.
Welcome to On Air with Chai, a podcast that inspires, brings hope, shows resilience and strength. On today's episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with a past case manager, Dina Benayon, and a past client, Eden Filonov. This story shows the true meaning of Chai Lifeline as a whole. This incredible story of a case manager-client relationship blossoming into a beautiful and lasting friendship with an amazing twist. But you'll have to listen and find out what that twist is. Enjoy. Hi everybody, and welcome back to another amazing episode of On Air with Chai. Today I am joined by Rothman.
Hello.
A special host, Orly Davis.
Hi.
And we have two amazing guests today. Please let me introduce Eden Filonov and Dina Benayon. This story...
Hello. Hey.
This story is wild. I'm very happy we get to share this story. From what I've heard, it's incredible. I want you two to kind of just go with it. And Eden, we're going to start with you, if you don't mind. How did everything kind of begin?
Which part? My journey with Chai Lifeline or kind of my journey with illness?
Journey with illness. So I want to go before Chai Lifeline. So we're going to kind of predate everything Chai Lifeline, and then start with your illness, and then we'll get into that.
Yeah. So I was in grade 9. I was starting out high school. It was April, and I kind of woke up one day in the morning, and I couldn't see anything. So when I say that, I mean, I could see like shapes, objects, colors, but I couldn't make out faces or kind of details. I told my mom, I can't really see anything. And she's like, okay, well, lots of technology, you're on your screens all the time. Maybe this is the cue for less screen time. Dropped me off at school in the morning. I was in art class. We had like a project, a painting type of thing. And I was getting like all my colors outside of the lines. I called her in the bathroom, kind of panicked. I was like, I really can't see anything. She's like, okay, I'm coming to get you. I'm picking you up. Went to the doctor's, my regular, just pediatrician at that time. I was 15. He's like, haven't really seen this any time before. So I'm going to send you to an ophthalmologist that I know. Got me in the next morning. That ophthalmologist said the same thing. Have never seen this before. Don't know what's going on. Don't know why you can't see, and sent me to Sick Kids. So I think it was like within 48 hours, I was at Sick Kids. I was at their eye doctor department. They were running tests. I got blood work, kind of got that whole thing started. They sent me to Emerge, and kind of between my blood work, between my blood pressure, I got sent to ICU, and they told me I had kidney failure. So it was total normal teenager, shopping at the Eden Center on the Sunday with my friends, to like waking up in the middle of the week, totally blind, couldn't see anything, to kidney failure, kind of all within the week. And that's my journey with kidney failure. That's how that started. From there, I was at Sick Kids Hospital for about 2 months, and started dialysis, started all the treatments, started all the medications, met all my doctors, and kind of did that whole thing.
They explain like why kidney failure affects your eyesight?
So it wasn't the kidney failure itself. My blood pressure, for anyone that doesn't know, normal numbers for blood pressure is supposed to be 120 on 80. Mine was sitting at like 240 on 200. It was like very, very high. They actually didn't know how I was walking around. I didn't have a headache. I didn't have anything. I couldn't see. That was the problem that I went in with. But it was totally unrelated. So later on, kind of the reason I couldn't see was my retina detached, or something in my eye had detached.
So many things going on at once.
What?
Yeah.
You're like
And
a
that just
walking miracle. That's crazy.
happened out of nowhere.
So as a teen though, like what was that like for you to suddenly have that panic? And I'm sure you had friends and things like what was, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Honestly, it's been a little while, so I don't remember all of it, but I remember like not being freaked out at all. It was very like, oh, kind of in your head, I think as a teenager, like this is going to get fixed. I'll go to the doctors. They'll like, I don't know, wrap me up, let me rest for a day, and then kind of send me back to school. I didn't really think much of it. My biggest focus was that I was missing school, and 2-3 days, like I was starting to fall behind. Not so dramatically, but like I was always very, very academically inclined. Like that was my top priority. So I didn't like being away from school was my bigger focus. That's what I remember, like, to be honest. I don't remember being so nervous about anything health related. I do remember at the eye clinic at Sick Kids, the doctor had said something. She had only seen this once in someone who had leukemia. And I remember as a 15-year-old not knowing anything other than the word leukemia, just naturally, like that was scary, but really I didn't know more than that. And I don't think I thought more than that.
Well, I wish they wouldn't actually jump to the leukemia line right away. The first thing.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah.
So
0 to 100.
you wake up, you're 15, you can't see, and the first thing you're thinking of is I'm missing school.
That's what I was thinking. You're dedicated, girl.
Yeah, that was a common thing. Like that became a big thing where everyone around me knew that the problem was much bigger than missing school. But I was like, how am I supposed to catch up on this? Like now this project is due and I'm missing math and like I'm running behind. Like, how am I supposed to make sure my teachers know I'm not there tomorrow? Like that was constantly my focus for a couple of weeks until things, I think, really started to register.
So how did that resolve?
Brian.
Did it resolve itself, or how did they have to do surgery?
Yeah. So it didn't really. What they did know, just because of the blood work, was my kidneys were failing. So I did within that week start dialysis. So I remember the dates pretty well. I woke up blind April 19th. By the 21st, I was admitted to Sick Kids, and May 1st, I started dialysis for the first time. And that was hemodialysis on the 6th floor at Sick Kids.
What was that like for you at that age, being surrounded by a bunch of other kids who are going through kidney failures and other forms of dialysis?
Again, I look back and like the priorities were so different as a 15-year-old. Like they introduced dialysis as, you know, I'll get the opportunity to like lay in this lazy boy chair for 4 hours and just like hang out, and I can watch TV and like not really worry about anything while this machine sits beside me and cleans my blood. Like it was kind of introduced that way. A part that I missed that was harder for me again was I got put on prednisone, super, super high dose steroids. So before even starting dialysis, I woke up one morning, and Dina will probably remember this because this was the hardest part of my journey at that time. I woke up and my face was like 3-4 times the size that I went to bed with. And that was the hardest part. Like that, for lack of a better words, absolutely destroyed me. Again, 15 years old, like I only really cared about what I looked like. So that was the hard part. It was waking up with my face giant, and them not telling me that beforehand, I think was also very difficult. That part again was what my focus was. So it was, everything was aesthetic at that point. I was like, okay, like, and what does dialysis mean? Like, where's what surgery, what's going to be visible? What am I going to look like? Like that was, I mean, looking back, unfortunately to say that's the honest truth. That's where my worries lied.
So you would have rather have known beforehand though?
Yes. I think it would have been a lot less traumatic waking up and not recognizing myself. Like within a couple of hours, this was overnight, I woke up and didn't know who was looking back at me in the mirror. So that was I mean, looking back, I remember that being, if not the hardest part, absolutely up there with one of the hardest parts.
So really knowing ahead of time might have made that easier. I think that's
Just
that's very
a bit
important.
of a warning. I remember them saying steroids, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna be super muscular, and they're like, no, not those kind of steroids. So I think a little bit more context, because I was 15, right? I wasn't a young kid. I think I was old enough to understand, not the entirety of it, but to be warned. Like I don't even know.
Did they tell your mom? Did your mom know? Did they even tell her at least?
My mom has a background in the medical field, so she, unfortunately, I think knew a lot more than she wanted to with the info they were giving. So yeah, I think she knew what dialysis meant. Not in the way that we got intimate with the subject later on in terms of the details and different types of dialysis and all of that. But she definitely knew more than I did. In terms of the background of what was going on, what the numbers meant, what the blood pressure was, what creatinine and hemoglobin and all of those numbers that start to go wonky in your blood work with kidney failure. Yeah, she knew.
Both kidneys or just one?
Yeah, so typically kidney failure is both kidneys. There's no way of really measuring one or the other. All the numbers that are done are just both of them. So even when they give like an EGFR, the percentage of kidney function, it's based on both of them.
What was your percentage?
I don't remember at that time. I remember my creatinine was 191, and it's supposed to be between 50 and 90, and maybe even lower for a kid. So that's where we started. My first creatinine was 191.
Okay, so you're going through all of this and everything. What's going on through your parents' head at this point?
So it's just my mom and I. I don't know what was going on through her head. Honestly, I don't know. I'm her only kid. It's always been me and her growing up. I wish I could tell you. I have no idea. I think she was terrified. I could assume she was absolutely terrified.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I actually remember her being quite proud and quite strong and very focused on your schoolwork as well.
Yeah.
She really wanted to make sure that you had a tutor. I think because that was important to you, and I think she wanted that to be she wanted to be there for you, and that was something that she felt would be really positive for you.
Yeah. I mean, anyone knows my mom knows how she is. Any goal or thing I've set out for myself, she's 150% the biggest supporter. And I think just, yeah, Marty, like you said, I think with the stress that school was causing me, she's just like, how do we make this better for her? Because this is not the problem right now. This was not what the problem was.
So where did High Lifeline come in? Do you remember that? Can you recall that?
I do remember that. So I was actually in a dialysis session, and there was a kid that you and some previous staff at High Lifeline were visiting, and you guys were delivering. I think it was an iPad or something that he was really excited about. And my nurse at that time, my head nurse, her name was Rose. She came over and she's like, so there's like these people come and visit this guy all the time. They're like a Jewish organization. They like always make him happy. He's always thrilled. Like, would you be interested in meeting them? They're right here. And we're like, I guess. Like, we didn't know anything. We're like, I guess. And then that's when you came and introduced yourself and just like spoke a little bit about who you guys were and what you were. And that's where we got introduced. That I remember very vividly.
It was Morty himself?
Morty was very different.
I didn't know it was Morty. I thought it was Dina. That's so crazy. I didn't know that.
Morty that I met this was when Morty was doing all of the visits, I think himself in the hospital.
Yeah, there was. I mean, Dina came on really early, but I at that time
I don't think I was there then. Right. I don't think I was not working at High Lifeline at the time yet. I was a volunteer, but I was not working.
Not yet. Yeah.
Orly, you always say 258. Like, yeah. That's so 258. This is 3770. Like,
oh my gosh, it's even before.
Yeah.
Bryan, this is the old office on the other side, on the same side we're on now, but like above some like Asian food restaurant, something rather.
Yeah, beside the No Frills.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
But and then I guess, can you describe, I guess, your experience and anything after that, like pre the obviously pre-meeting High Lifeline to post-meeting High Lifeline? What was that like? And then I guess if you can fast forward a bit to when we get to when you meet Dina.
Yeah. So like there was a couple months, I think I had met you guys once I was actually discharged a little bit, if I remember correctly. Again, this is like more than 10 years ago. But it was in the summer still. I remember that for sure, because I didn't go to overnight camp anymore. It was, my summer was in the hospital at Sick Kids. But it was just like from very scary and kind of alone to, just between me and my mom. And not to say I have a huge family, so they were involved too, but the scariness of like being a kid with kidney failure and not knowing anything medical before to High Lifeline was a big jump. Like there was girls a little bit older than me who would come hang out with me and talk to me and give my mom an opportunity to walk away a little bit from treatment or from the hospital room and get a cup of coffee or go sit somewhere that wasn't, beeping and making all these sounds all the time. And it was just a fun time to talk to girls my age who were more familiar with being in the hospital, which a bunch of 15-year-olds from high school are not familiar with. So when friends would come visit, it was obviously very different. And it was nice. It was just, I remember it was a nice little break. It was a nice break as a teenage girl to just get to talk to other older girls that I didn't know and got to meet.
How do you explain this to your friends at 15? Like, how did they understand what was going on, kind of thing, or you just kind of?
Yeah, honestly, I can't even tell you. I don't remember how I explained it. I don't think I gave any real details. I think the elephant in the room was how different I looked. I think that was a big one. And just, I had like this central line out of my chest. It was the summertime. Like, I remember really having a hard time listening to the plans and things that were going on. I remember calling my camp director and telling her I wasn't coming back to sleepover camp. Like, I remember kind of knowing all these things were going on around me, but not really like relating to it in a way, like almost just being an observer to other teenagers around me. I don't ever think I spoke about how I was feeling. I don't think I ever cried in front of my friends. It was very like, I'll get over this. I'll be done with this soon. And then I'll be back to being the same as everyone else soon enough. That's how I remember it.
Like at that age though, it's like you're young, wild, and free.
Yeah.
So it's like, that must have, I don't want to say stunted, but like it probably definitely hindered your social development at that point, or friendship circle or something.
I think it fast tracked me to adulthood. Like, I think that was the realest thing. Like, I knew blood work and test results and specialist departments, but I was missing out on like athletic banquets and like summer camp and stuff like that. Like that's again, like those are the things I remember. I remember the things that I missed out on being 15 and 16. The stuff that's exciting and fun, but really being really familiar and having a good kind of map around the hospital and the different doctors and the different departments. And like, I knew what a creatinine and the blood work was. I knew what a central venous line was. Like, I knew what arterial pressure was and systolic and like, I knew all of these medical stuff. But yeah, I think the more time that passed by, the more I think I felt myself kind of not being a real teenager, a regular teenager.
Did High Lifeline kind of help bring that back to you?
Yeah, it was really, really nice having people a little bit older than me who didn't know me, I guess, before I got sick, that I could talk to and just be myself around, versus, people that did know me or that I went to school with, that I was friends with, some for years and years, that I just had to like, in some way I felt put up a front for, or just like, I am strong. Like, I'm not going to cry. I'm like, I'm cool too still. Right. Like like I'll be at, the athletic banquet. Like there was a dance at the end of, this is grade 9, this is the first year of high school. And we had this huge dance at the end. And I remember like in my head still thinking I would be there, like still be there without my line and still be there with my face, like how I remember it. And just, which now I look back and I'm like, I don't know where your head was, like, but I remember just like thinking that all of this is just going to be done. Like doctors will fix you and then it's all going to be done and you're going to be back to normal.
Doesn't that speak to the power of, positive thinking and maybe the naivete of a young child being like, yeah, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. And I think that's a very powerful tool, I think, to get people through, even if it's not a real thing that it's actually going to happen, but it's a really powerful tool to get somebody to be thinking like, hey, I'm, next week something good is going to happen, and that's actually going to happen. And that can be, I think that can be really powerful. I think it's an important aspect.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. I think a lot of things worked in my favor at that age. I think being a kid and being a teenager, and not understanding the seriousness of it helped, to be honest. I think having my focus on almost trivial things versus, the information that the doctors in front of me were speaking at, like telling me and speaking at me, but my mind being on, summer plans or kind of being elsewhere, and how quickly, like, hey doc, tell me how quickly I'm going to be in and out of here so I can continue making plans for the summer. I think that helped a lot. I look back now and I say, I'm glad it happened when it did, because I think when you're an adult, it's a lot scarier, more, right? If I think back to the conversations that I had in the understanding that I have it now, I don't know that I would take any of it the same way. I don't know that I would still have had that mindset or anything. It's the beauty, I think, of still being a kid, where you wouldn't expect it.
So that's so interesting to me. It's just that you almost had that trust with the people around you to kind of take care of you, and your mom knew what was going on to make those medical decisions. But you kind of kept it light as you could during that time.
Yeah. And my mom was, again, anyone that knows my mom knows how she is, but there was not a single day or moment where she's like, you'll do that. Like, not right now. You have to focus on something else right now, but like, you'll do that. You'll be back at camp. You'll be back with your friends. You'll be back at school. You might be missing this dance. You'll be at next year's dance. Like, don't worry. Like, constantly in your ear, to have such a cheerleader is such a blessing. Like there's no words to describe what having someone in your ear like that does in a situation like that. And Dina's like nodding her head, like she knows my mom. She knows how she is.
So I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing, not only am I hearing the positive thinking, but I'm hearing like having positive people around, right? 100%. That's really integral. Being around the right kind of people really can make all the difference.
Yeah. And a huge help is, no one at High Lifeline comes and sits and cries at your bedside. Like, that's not the purpose. It's opposite. They walk into you crying, and then by the end of it, you're, crying of laughter, or, focusing on something different, which again, right, it means so much. Like, you look back, it's all of those moments that you remember, those good stuff. It's that trivial, like those day-to-day conversations is not what you remember. You remember the stuff that really has an impact, and the support around you. I would not have gone to where I am today without the support. I'm so confident in saying that. There's not a chance. Family, absolutely. My family, my mom in particular, and then High Lifeline. You guys were a second family. I still call you guys my second family. Dina's a family friend. Everyone's a family friend. Like, that doesn't change. That has not changed.
And it never will.
I feel like the whole thing is kind of poetic in a way. You lost your sight one morning, and then you go into this whole thing blind, not understanding the whole seriousness of what it could be. You get yourself through it with all the support and everything else, and you come out seeing it on the other side of it all.
Oh, look at that.
So like there is that whole poetic part of it all. Like
absolutely. Everyone like helped on that journey. They saw through it. They knew I would kind of get through it. They helped me get through it. Again, it was always my mom and I, right? So to have so much support, a family kind of almost a chosen family, or not really, because they walked in and just became family. It is huge. Like, I don't have words for that. It's huge.
Can you fast forward to like your time when you met Dina a little bit?
Dina, why don't you start here? What do you remember?
I don't remember when we first met. I guess we met as like a client at High Lifeline, right? I was working at High Lifeline. I was a caseworker. And I think you must have been on my list of like people to visit that day. Does that sound right? Because I don't remember the first time we met.
I don't remember the first time we met, to be honest. I do not remember the first time meeting you. I remember like the strength of our relationship. Like, I remember texting and talking to you all the time. I remember getting our nails done. Like, I remember the stuff that we did and how close we got, but I don't remember that process of how we actually got so close.
Right.
Could it be Yafi? Did she initially get matched up with
Yeah,
Yafi?
definitely. Yafi definitely was one who probably met you first and then introduced you to me. I know also, I think during that time we had a teen program. We were doing ceramics. I believe you were part of that. We had like a great group of girls getting together at the JCC.
Yeah.
It was like once a week we were doing, right? So we had that, like, that was like before Shining Stars. That was like the first, I think that was the first thing we did at the JCC. And I think that definitely helped our relationship, like we would hang out every week and have fun together, do pottery, and that probably helped also.
Take a step back for those people that don't know. So you're a case manager at High Lifeline at the time.
Yeah.
Can you kind of describe what that job is, what your role was, and then, obviously you got really hands-on with Eden, but in general, how did that work?
Sure. So I think the way we like describe it is like, we're obviously, most people understand what a caseworker is. You have your clients and you're kind of looking out to see how you can help them in any way. In High Lifeline specifically, our role was to become like a really strong support for the client and their family. So we're kind of like become like the best friend. Like, if like something didn't work out or if something went really well, like then, the parent would be reaching out to us right away to share that, to ask for support, to, if they needed help navigating it, or just to like share a victory. So we end up making like really strong, close relationships with our clients. We obviously try to help, set them up with any services like from High Lifeline or from, the general world that we know about. And we would spend a lot of time like, face to face with our clients. So either that would be meeting them, in their house, if that's where they were, or we'd spend a couple days a week at the hospital. They would always tell us when they're in, and then we'd come hang out. We'd bring some food, bring some games, and just like, catch up, try to see where we can be more helpful and build a strong relationship with them so that they feel support.
I just want to add, I think something that you mentioned is it's one person, like Dina would come and visit, and then the conversations that Dina and I would have sitting beside each other, hanging out, talking, were so different. Only now I know this, so different than the conversations she would have outside with my mom in the hallway, which I think is so, so big. And I like know about this now, right? Kid problems versus adult problems. Like, I did not know about the adult problems. And I think that helps a lot. Like, I didn't know the background of how hard things were, or my mom's emotional state, or what her worries are about. You were one person, but kind of split between the relationship with me and then the relationship with my mom. It's like, you guys had those heavy conversations, but I didn't know any of that. You guys made magic happen. I got to experience it, but I don't know what went on in the background.
Like, your mom had to stop working for a little while, I think, to take care of you.
Yeah, she did not leave for a single night in the 2 months that I was there, at all, ever. There was not a single night. This part will always make me cry, like, because I don't know how she did it. Like, I do not know how this woman did it. But yeah, I was there for 2 months in its entirety. I walked into an appointment for the eye doctor. I did not leave for 2 months. She did not leave for 2 months. I think sitting with Dina, sometimes she would go quickly home, take a shower, bring me a change of clothes, change her clothes, maybe grab something from the store if I really wanted it. But that was it. That was the longest that we were apart from each other. Yeah, that part will always, I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she did it on her own. Not on her own, but I mean, as a single parent with no other siblings. I don't know.
Yeah.
Love of a mom. That's how.
Honestly, parents, there's nothing like them.
Nope.
There's nothing like a mom.
Specifically yours, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Dina, can
They
you
kind of do what we have to.
yeah, Dina, can you go on about and I guess elaborate on the growth of your relationship, where it went from there, if you can remember?
It's hard to remember details because I feel like it evolved as we went from being clients to like it kind of, as Adam described, like it was deeper. Like we felt like it was also over many years, right? I would say like 8, 9. Like I don't. What would you say?
No, yeah, more than that. Because I had the years at Sick Kids, and then I had a couple of years of recovery where I wasn't doing treatments and I wasn't in the hospital as much. And I was just in high school kind of, but we were always in touch.
We were always in touch, and it kind of was more of like a friendship because we were like past that stage and we had, like a really strong foundation, and it moved on to being a friendship. And then you ended up back at, I guess you'll get there, but you ended up back in treatment. So it kind of was like a mix of like client friendship place. But our relationship kind of really, it is a really strong and long relationship. So it's hard to say like how it evolved. We spent a lot of time together. We hung out, like we did a lot of different things, right? So there were like some really difficult times that we were together, and there were some really fun times. Like we would, just as you said, like go for a manicure, or just go for some food, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
So it was definitely like a different relationship than you have in your life. I think
being an only kid, I like had an older girl who I got along with, and I think I just like adopted Dina as my older sister. Like, I
would want her as my older sister.
Honestly, no, she's mine, Orly. She's my older sister. Yeah, I think that was like, I just looked at her as an older sister. I remember messaging you. I would talk to you about high school stuff and just like random stuff I'm sure you did not care to hear about.
I
know. But yeah, it was like conversation was regular. We were always in touch. And I think like what you said, which is really important, it wasn't at my lowest points always. Like we shared and celebrated the birthdays, the special stuff, fun stuff. So it's not like I didn't associate you always with like the hospital or being sick. Like I saw you and talked to you at my high points also.
What made that connection? Like, Dina, were you this close with other clients, or was there something just special about the situation that kind of led into this very close relationship?
I'm definitely not this close with all my other clients. I mean, there's a different relationship with all different clients. I think that Eden's age specifically was a lot of my clients might have been a bit younger, so then I was closer to their parents, right? It always, like, the dynamic is different with every client. But obviously I wasn't this close to all my other clients. Yeah.
I think I held on to you. I just forced you into a big sister role that you weren't asked to be. It's like, hey, want to hear about my school day? Hey, want to hear about the new boy? Hey, want to hear about this and that and that? And you're like, okay, fine.
I kind of understand that, because I'm not an only sibling, but as an only sibling, you probably have nobody to reach out to, or an outlet kind of thing. So now it's like you have somebody who's a little bit older, female, that's not your mom, that you can confide in.
Yeah. So I have a big family. I have cousins, but it's different. Like Dina was like my friend. She was like my person. So it was like, it felt like a big sister because she was like my person. It wasn't like a cousin, and all my cousins have siblings. So I was always like a little sister to all my cousins, of course, but Dina was like my person. Like she was special. I would talk to her. She like knew everything about me. I knew everything about her. It was like a very special, nothing has changed. Like, it's still a very special relationship. But at that point, like, she really was, I think, in my mind, wholeheartedly, like, this is my older sister. Like, she doesn't go to school with me. I don't know her that way. Like, this is my person. And I think just the vulnerability of the entire situation, like, really amplified that relationship. Like, she saw me at really, really low points. And that, I mean, there's a bond, I think, that's created there that you don't really get with other people. Same with Morty. I mean, Morty's also seen me and my mom at really, really low points. And that strengthens the relationship, whether you want it to or not.
Sure.
Yeah.
It also helps to not, I think, like, we always like think about this at High Lifeline, like, as someone outside of the family, it's easier for Eden to be completely open. Like, you know, she can't go to her mom and be like, I'm scared of this, because her mom's also scared of that, right? And like, you know, you can, but it's harder to, because it's also putting a burden on them and her family also, right? So it's going to someone who's like outside, you know, of the inner square circle, and telling them about your biggest fears and things that you want to talk about or whatever it is, without having that like worry of what it's going to do to them. So I think there was room for that in our relationship also.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, because I really wanted to be positive. I only had positivity from my family and from my mom. And I also was very positive in all of my conversations and everything. But I mean, it was years, it was months, it was weeks. Like, there were really hard thoughts that I had sometimes, or fears or worries that, like Dina said, I just didn't want to share with anyone so close who would take it just as hard. And I have conversations with Dina of like, I'm really, really scared of, you know, A, B, and C. And I you know, I don't want to tell my mom, because I know this is really hard and she's scared about the same thing, but Dina would listen to that. And she was always there if I needed those conversations, whether she was physically right beside me or just a phone call or a text away, which really helped. Like, again, like you said, not having someone so involved, like family wise or kind of in the rest of your life, but a little bit removed in that sense.
Yeah.
It's always easier talking to somebody that's a little removed, because there's never that judgment point or anything like that with them, and they're more open-minded to it, and they're not going to harp on you and jump down your throat or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, it's like, she's not, I don't know how close in age you guys are from each other, but it's not like you're talking to another 15-year-old
Right.
who wouldn't be able to actually comprehend what you're going through and what you're dealing with. Whereas you got somebody who's a little bit older than you who has a background in this kind of stuff and knows how to get you through it.
Yeah. And that's a big thing I say now. Like, I have clients, I'm a therapist, and I say the same thing that you said, Bryan, like, the benefit, really, to not undermine the benefit of having someone to talk to that's not family, that's not a spouse, that's not kind of so intimately involved with you, that would take, you know, your pains and your hardships almost equally, like feel the hurt the same way. And that's like I would really, I recommend it to everyone, like, to talk to someone. And it doesn't have to be when you're at your lowest point. At any point, the benefit of talking to someone just a little bit removed from your personal life is huge, because you can be really honest. You can kind of release those really heavy weights off your shoulders sometimes, without that same worry that, you know, this person's going to walk away from this conversation just as devastated as I was sharing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're a therapist now, you just said?
I'm a social worker.
Does that tie into this whole scenario?
I think I'd be foolish to say not to. I'd say, yeah. I think in a lot of ways it did. Yeah. It's the complexity of it. Yeah, I think naturally it did. With that said, I don't think I ever, anytime I see like a posting for a nephrologist or what's it called, a hemodialysis unit social worker, I'm like, oh, all the shivers in my spine go off. So I think it definitely turned me away from some things, but I think that kind of wanting to be there for other people part is definitely heavily influenced by High Lifeline, by my time in the hospital, by a social worker I met at Sick Kids, for sure.
That's amazing. Are you working with kids now, or you do work with adults or everybody, or?
I worked with kids for a period of time. Now I work with Holocaust survivors, actually. And then I do private practice on the side. So I get to meet kind of with 20, 30-year-olds and talk about a bunch of different stuff.
You just
Your experience really affects that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Not on a personal way. Like I don't obviously share these type of things with clients and sessions. But I think that understanding of, a big one I'd say, just from my experience, is to not judge a book by its cover. I feel like that's very cliche, but you really don't know what's going on in someone's life. Like, I think that is the biggest thing. Like, you do not know what someone's worries are, or what their fears are, or what their accomplishments that they're proud of are. Like, you do not know that until you sit and talk with someone. And that is something that I think I've carried on all of these years, because as Dina knows as well, I was very, very private while I was going through all of this. I shared that with Bryan earlier as well. Like, no one who I didn't specifically tell that I was going through something knew about it. That was really important to me. I did not want people looking at me and thinking, like, having any pity or any of my conversations to revolve around my health. Like, if you didn't know me and you thought I was a 16, 17, 19, 20-year-old, just like any other, like, that was my goal. So I think a big one was really, you don't know what someone's going through until they share it with you or choose to share it with you. And to not judge, like, in any way. If something's not making sense or not adding up, it's not your place to judge. If they want to share it with you, they will. If they don't, maybe in due time, but that's it. People are not, what you see at face value. There's a lot more to a person, which is one of the biggest lessons I learned. I think the biggest lesson I taught a lot of people. That's a big one. Hold on to that one.
Yeah, I think that's so integral. And like I was saying earlier, that's something that we can all take away from the story, is really, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And we all say it, but does it actually happen? When somebody says something wrong to you and upsets you, you don't know what's going on for them that day. You don't know what that happened that morning for him or for her or whatever. And I think that's so integral. But I want to take this back to kind of the story that of your relationship between you and Dina. And Dina, feel free to chime in at any point. But where did you guys? So your relationship's blossoming, and then I think there was a bit of a harder time that you came into.
Yeah.
And I remember that time. It was I remember it quite vividly, actually. Dina and I had our own thing happen at that point. I don't even know if you remember, Dina, but that was it was
Not sure what you're referring to.
Yeah, when Eden was really sick, you came to my office and told me that you weren't sure she was going to make it.
Right. We were worried. We were really worried.
Yeah. That was my 21st birthday gift. My 21st birthday gift, I think I landed myself in a coma for 11 days.
Yep.
That was, I got kidney failure again. I was doing university. I was at school. We thought we were through the hard parts. But I got really, really sick a little bit after turning 21, landed back in dialysis. There was something that happened on dialysis. I was actually supposed to go on a trip with my sorority. I was in a sorority at that time. Really, life got pretty good. And I was supposed to go on a trip with my sorority over the weekend to Montreal. And doing dialysis, 3 times a week, you have to plan things a little bit different. And I moved the dialysis because it was going to be, over the weekend. I wouldn't be able to go to Saturday. I think I ended up going Friday night or something like that, Thursday night, something later. I had to switch around the times. And something happened on dialysis. I don't remember the details of it. But the result was me in a coma for 11 days. And naturally, I won't know what that was like. I was not here, really. But now I kind of know everything that happened in those 11 days, and there was a lot of scares. No one really thought I was coming out of that one.
Yeah.
They tell you what happened. It happened while you're on dialysis or afterwards?
It happened just at the end. We were just finishing up. And I remember this part. I remember finishing up. My mom was talking to one of the nurses in front of me on the side. My nurse was unhooking me. It was really at the end, like after a 4-hour treatment. And I was telling my mom, like, I had a central line at that point, and I remember screaming, like, there's air. A heart, like the CVL is connected right into your heart. It's never supposed to be opened. It's never, it's very, very careful. There's only certain people that are trained to touch it. Like, it's really, it's an art. It's a vessel right to your heart that sits outside on your chest. And the details are blurry, but I remember yelling, there's air in my heart, there's air in my heart. And I don't remember anything after that. Yeah. And then waking up, I found out I was in a coma for 11 days, intubated. Every morning was kind of, we'll see how it goes. But that, I think, is what Dina was talking about in terms of, no one really thought I was coming out of that one.
Had your initial dialysis at 15. How long did the initial dialysis last?
So I did dialysis for the first time at 15 for about a year and a half, roughly a year and a half. And then I recovered for 6 years, got to go to university, got to join my sorority.
Your kidneys were fine at that time? Were you on medications for them, or?
Yeah, so I was on blood pressure medication. I was doing blood work twice a week. It was very much, my doctors kept calling it a honeymoon phase. Like, you're going to go back on dialysis at any point. Like, be ready for that. Be aware of that. Know that. They never let me forget it. But every week was kind of like, all right, well, I have another week. Let's make plans for next week. Like, it was very much like that. Honestly, for 6 years, I was doing blood work twice a week, every week. Wow. I was on medication, blood pressure medication. My blood pressure was always still high. Creatinine was making jumps up and down. It was very, very much like, sit, get your blood work, wait for that blood work, and it's okay, so that I have a few more days for 6 years.
Mental.
Go through all that. You end up in the coma. What happened when you came to?
First few days awake were blurry. I remember Dina. I remember Morty. I remember learning to swallow again and walk again because I did have a stroke. That was something that happened. In the coma, leading to the coma, part of the coma, I'm honestly not even sure. I had a stroke, so I did have to kind of relearn to walk, relearn to swallow, get that intubation tube out. Stayed in the hospital again for a little while after that one. Dina, do you remember kind of more details from specifically that?
I remember, like, now you're jogging my memory. I remember, like, you had to relearn a lot. You did. I remember, like, your mom feeding you, like it was really hard. It was like going back from, like you had to relearn the basics, and it was really, really hard.
The reading and writing. That one.
Yeah. Oh, you had like a sign. I remember you used to, like, because you were still intubated for a bit after, and you would like try to write things, and it was like 2-year-old writing, but like we were able to like kind of try to figure out what you were. It was actually really hard to watch because no one knew what the end was going to be. Like, we didn't know that you'd end up here, right? So like it was really scary that we're like, is this it? Like, is this what's gonna, like, is this how this is gonna go, right? Yeah. That was scary.
Yeah, I remember that now because you saying that, I only learned these pieces afterwards, right. Much afterwards. But yeah, I remember the words were in my head and I knew the letters, but everyone would put like a piece of paper and a pen or a marker in front of me and I couldn't write it. Like, I couldn't.
And you can see your frustration though. It was like, you could see that you were trying to like tell us something and you were so frustrated, but you couldn't express it.
And this is like being 21. Like I was in university, I was doing well in university, I was in a sorority, and like I was relearning to walk, swallow, and write basic things. Like I woke up,
Yeah.
what year is it? I'm like 1995. That's the year I was born. And I remember, this is the only time I vividly remember my mom panicking. I was sitting with my uncle and my mom, and I needed something. So they gave me the pen and the paper, and I couldn't write. And I remember my mom going, oh my God, she can't write. Like she can't write. She can't write. She can't, like, and she just kept repeating. And my uncle was like, she's just like coming to, like, just, relax a little bit. Like what? And I remember being like, can I not write? Like thinking this, because my brain was still fine, but I couldn't write. Like I didn't have the letters to write. I didn't remember any of the letters. Yeah.
So how do you cope with that? How did you cope? Like your mind's fine, but you're dealing with what you were dealing with.
I remember later on, I don't know how, my focus was always on something else. And I don't know how to explain this mindset. I really can't. And I remember one conversation in particular with the doctor, and I won't get into but basically telling me like, you're not getting out of this. Like, just like accept it. This is what it is. Like, you're very sick. If you make it to like 25, good for you. But you're too sick to ever get a kidney transplant. You're too sick for anything. Like, just come to these facts. Like, just come, because my mind was always, I need to go do this. I need to go finish school. I need to go travel. I need to go back to Israel. Like my whole, half my family's in Israel, and I hadn't seen them. And I was like, I need to go do all of these other things. And, everyone around me was just like, you need to calm down and kind of realize where you are right now. But one of those things out of the coma, like a couple of weeks later, relearning to walk and write and whatever, I said to my mom, I was like, okay, if I walk, will you get me another dog? Will you get me another dog? Like my dream dog's a Doberman. Will you get me a Doberman? And she's like, if you learn to walk, and I couldn't like I couldn't come to, but I was like pointing with my fingers, and she's like, one Doberman, like one. And I was like, and I counted all the way up to like 7. And she's like, 7 Dobermans. And she's like, you know what? Just like, get out of here and I'll get you whatever you want. Like, just like,
oh God, 7 Dobermans.
7 Dobermans. I was just like, my mind was always elsewhere. Like, I need to be out of the position I'm in because I have other things I need to be doing, which sounds ridiculous. I'm like, I don't know that I would recommend that to people, but like that's how I did things. I think that's how I got through things. Like, not accepting where I was. Like, Dina, how would you explain it? Like, I was never.
But you weren't in denial. Like you weren't in denial, but you were just like, okay, let's move on. Like, like, let's not give it too much attention. Like, I want to move on with my life. So,
Well, there was a lot of facts where just, I couldn't be in denial, right? Like there was lots of heavy conversations. Like we've had those, for, if I do pass away, I want all my central lines out. Like I don't want to like go to rest with any of this stuff. Like, I had a pair of shoes. I was
21 and thinking that way though. That's incredible.
Yeah. I remember I had this pair of shoes I was so proud of owning. Like, didn't have anywhere to wear them to. Like, I was 21, like a very fancy pair of shoes. And I remember telling my mom, like, bury me in these. Like, if I don't have a chance to wear them, like, make sure I get to wear them. And she's like, okay. And these are not conversations you want to have at 21. It's not conversations you want to have with your mom, who I was so close with, who was my best friend. But it was like, you had to. I was in moments where I had to. And she listened. Like, she's like, okay. So even in the coma, Dina, you probably know this, like they wanted to add another central line because they couldn't poke anymore. Like my arms were done, my legs were done. Like they couldn't poke anymore. And my mom's like, no. Like if she's going with dignity, and you're taking out that first central line too. Like she's not going with that one either. So like, yes, there was a lot of moments where I like wasn't accepting kind of what I was hearing directly in front of me, but no way was I in denial. I couldn't be. I just couldn't be. That would have been, I think, really foolish to be in denial. So it was a lot of those heavy conversations, but not giving my all to it. It was accepting it, listening to it, understanding it, but then really exploring those miracle alternatives as well. Like, okay, and if I am that 1% that does make it out of here, what do I get to do then? Right.
So really staying positive while being real.
Yeah.
That's an important mindset, I think, to in any situation, that anyone can take that with them. Like, you can be in a business situation and being, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to be real about the situation, but I'm going to take it and try and be positive. And would you say that plays out in your life at all anymore?
Yeah. I think I am someone who's cautious. I don't think I do things kind of without thinking of them, but I think something that's important is, when you're in a medical setting or dealing with health, they always give you worst case scenario. Right? They always tell you kind of like worst case scenario, or there's a chance of this or a chance of this. And I'm like, but tell me the positives too. Like if I do make it out of, like, what does this look like? Like, or, if this medication does work, what does that look like? If I do, like, tell me, yes, give me the concept, like the risks and whatever, but like, tell me the positive stuff too. And I do that in my life now. Like, okay, it can go this way, or let my mind also explore the positive, the good things that can come out of this risk or this next move or this new adventure. So I think that is something that I do a lot. I let myself kind of worry about certain things, but then I also allow myself to equally focus on the good stuff that can come out of it, which I think is important. And I think it's very easy to get to stay focused on the negatives, kind of the risks of things, but weigh it just as heavy as you would the positives, right? There's still a chance for that, so weigh them the same.
It's a lot of perspective. There's a saying, a lot of people will say, it's like, it happened to me or it happened for me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and it really all depends on how you kind of turn things and look at them, and what you take from it, and how you kind of use that going forward.
Yeah. And I say this to my mom all the time, and she does not like it. She's like, I say, I would not change a single thing about what happened, not a single thing. And she's like, you know what? I could have gone without a lot of that stuff. I'm like, you know what? If it put me to where I am right in this moment, I would not change a single thing. I wouldn't.
That's perspective.
She doesn't like it, so don't share that one with her. But
it's the journey though that gets you across, right? Like, a lot of people where they are today wouldn't be there unless they walked across hot coals. Like, sometimes there has to be a bit of suffering in order for you to come out golden on the other side. Yeah, unfortunately.
100%.
Not always, but unfortunately, that is how some of the things do play out. And yeah, it's a lot of it is perspective and how you can turn it.
Yeah.
Can you mentioned the transplant, and I think that there's I don't know who wants to take this part of the story, but would Dina or Eden, would either of you just take the next part of our story here?
Dina, why don't you get started on this one? Why don't you start this one?
And I'm curious particularly about your mindset during all of this.
Okay. My mindset, like how this came about, is that what we're asking?
Well, you can tell the story, but I want to know what you were thinking. Like, what was going through your head? Like, hey, maybe I can do this. Maybe should I do this? Should I not? How does this work? And
so I had a friend, I sometimes, I think we have like random small conversations. I'm not even closely in touch with this person in my life, but like randomly he told me that he was donating a kidney, and I was like, cool, that's like really interesting. And then, after the fact, he's like, yeah, it was like really not a big deal. It's something I did. And like, I don't really think about it on a day-to-day. I did it. I was really glad I was able to do it, and like, moved on. So he mentioned that at some point in our friendship, and I was like, that's awesome. That's really cool. So I think that kind of like planted it in my radar. And then I remember I remember really clearly, like when I was like, okay, forget it. Like, I got to do this. we didn't talk about this, but I think after your coma, you were still doing dialysis.
Yeah.
Correct? Like, I might be mixing up the timeline here, but there was a time that you were in school one day. Do you know what I'm talking about? One day you were in school and you passed out in school,
Yeah.
right? And it was like really close to that time of like the coma, like you were just in a really bad place, and it was really scary. As Morty said, like we've discussed it, like it was really like it was scary. I think now I'm remembering, I think I told Morty, I was like, this is it. Like, like I'm leaving High Lifeline. Like if like God forbid something happened, I'm like, I can't just keep doing this, right? And I remember that I was downtown that day, which was like just like really like good luck. There were certain days that I was working downtown, and that was one of them. And your mom called me frantic, and she's like, "Are you near the hospital?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm actually like parking at Sick Kids right now." She's like, "I need you to run to Toronto General, and it's coming in an ambulance. I'm all the way up north. I'm not gonna make it, and someone needs to meet her there." And I was like, I remember, like, I don't think I parked my car. Like, I think I just like left it, and like I ran, and I actually met you as you were like, they were wheeling you in. I don't remember. I don't remember if you were fully conscious. Like, I think, you weren't. And they took you into a room in Toronto General, and they like started doing whatever they do. And then like they sent me out of the room, and they were doing more tests. And I was just like, I didn't even know what to do. I was like, oh my God, like this is really bad. And I remember they like gave me a bag of your stuff, and I was like, holy crap, like this is like, it was really real and really scary. And then your mom met me there, and like we both were like just like in this like little room, and we were like really worried. We were really worried. Your mom was hysterical. Like it was really a scary time. And I remember like walking out being like, I have two kidneys. Like I literally have two healthy kidneys. Like if I have what I could give you to take you out of this situation, like that would be crazy not to. So I think that was like where I was like, forget it. Like, and I remember like, you recovered from that episode. And I remember talking to you, and I was like, okay, like there was an organization, like we're going to help you out. We're going to get you like a donor. And like, I never wanted to tell you that like I was thinking of doing it, because I was like really nervous, and like, I was just like, it was a lot for me. And so I remember, I think we went to meet someone together to talk about like donation for you, to put you on a list. Does that sound familiar, Eden?
Yeah.
And I remember like you filled out some paperwork, and I like knew that we were a blood type match, which like isn't everything, but it's a big thing. And I was like, forget it, like we can do this, like I can do this. So that's really where it started like rolling for me. That's how I started, starting to test and get involved in that way.
So really, if you think about it, Eden, I don't know if you've ever met Dina's friend who kind of put a little bug in her head. But that little conversation that she had with somebody else who had done it themselves kind of put the concept or even the idea in her head, and allowed for this incredible thing to happen, which I think speaks to, Dina, you said it so nonchalantly. You were like, yeah, so like I had this friend, and he kind of had this like conversation with me, and it wasn't a big deal, but in Eden's life that's a huge deal.
Dina absolutely kills me, because anytime she talks, and this is why I'm like, Dina needs to start. Because Morty, you're absolutely correct. I would not be here today. This actually, what Dina's talking about, I was 23. 23 years old now. So I had, from that episode of 21, I had made another recovery, went off of dialysis for a little bit, was catching up. I had to take a year off of school in my second year. So I was doing courses in the winter and just kind of trying to fast track so I could graduate in 5 years instead of 4, because I had taken a year off. So I was at my university taking a class, and I had walked out of it. There was 2 girls sitting on the window. I was like, please call 911, and don't remember anything after that. So that's what Dina's talking about, where they called the ambulance. I was down the street on Gerrard. They put me into Toronto General. My mom was not there. She had driven me there, I think, in the morning, and then went home, and then they had called her. Yeah, they had used my finger to unlock my phone and called my most recent contact. So they called her. She panicked because I coded. So I was code blue. I was non-responsive, and she was like an hour drive away from downtown Toronto. So she called you. And that's the background to the story that you just gave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
You ever find those girls from school to say thank you?
No. I hope I didn't traumatize them too badly. Just walked out of my class. I was like, call
Can you hear
911.
her? Does anyone else hear her? She's like worried about somebody else traumatizing. Like she code blue, and she's like, that's what she's thinking about.
But sorry, this is why I wanted Dina to start, because she says this so nonchalantly. Like, yeah, I just decided, like, someone had put in the idea of donating a kidney, and I was like, okay, I'll donate a kidney. I'm like the magnitude of this, like, I'm just gonna, I think it's a good idea. Someone told me about it. I think I'm gonna just, donate a kidney. She talks about it like this any single time she's ever talked about it. And I sit there and I'm like, how do you talk about it like that?
And so when did she tell you? What was that like? What was that like for both of you?
Oh,
like?
I remember this. And I'm not even a case manager. And she was so proud. Oh God, I don't want to ruin the story, but I remember this. She came into the office very excited how she was going to
I was really anxious about it. I was actually like, I don't know if like we've discussed this on it, but like for me, I was like, I kind of felt like, let's just do this anonymously. Like that way our relationship could stay like nice and the same. And, let's just like not make things weird. Like, so I really, asked them many times to let us just like, I was like, let her think it's like an anonymous donor. Let's just do this, like she won't be calling me anyways during that time. Cause like, everyone else will go visit her. We'll make it look like really smooth and like, the hospital wouldn't let, like, Canada has a policy against that. They don't allow you to donate anonymously. If you are, it would go to like the next person on the list. It wouldn't go to the person that you hope for. So they didn't let that. So then I was like, okay, we got to like figure out, like, it was also like really far into it to like be like, by the way, it's me. Like it was like we were talking about this and you'd text me and be like, I think they have a match, and then I think they have a date, and like it was really far in, and I'm like, yeah, I'm that match and I know the date already. Like, so it was getting a little like too far, too awkward, like too weird. And we're like, hey, we got to do this. Like, but I also knew, I was like, it's going to be a really big deal. Like, it's going to be like a really big deal to like break that news.
And it was a big deal because at 23, at this stage, I was starting dialysis emergency. I had my graduation from my university doing my degree on June 11th. And I was like really not feeling good already by end of May. And when I say I wasn't feeling good, I was swollen like a balloon. I was experiencing neuropathy in both my feet. So I couldn't walk anymore. Like I would actually waddle, like just to keep my balance. Like I couldn't feel my toes. I couldn't feel my feet. So at 23, I had pushed and begged my doctor. I was like, my graduation is June 11th. Please let me walk across the stage. I'll come afterwards and start dialysis. He's like, you may not get to walking across the stage. Like, you do not understand how unwell you are. I was like, just let me walk across the stage. Like, I'm
that
begging.
Positivity, right? It's that positivity.
Yeah, it was a goal, right? It was always like I was looking forward to something. So I was very, 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 very sick by June. Very sick. So June 11th was my graduation. I walked into my doctor's office without an appointment at Toronto General a couple of mornings later. I was doing a placement. I had just started a placement too. And I was like, I went there first to let them know that I was really, really sick and I had to go to the hospital. And then I went to the hospital and I looked at my doctor, Dr. McFlynn, who's an absolute angel, absolutely one of the reasons I'm here today as well. And I was like, okay, doc, I'm ready. Like I need to now. And this was a fight for years and years and years on not putting me back on, like not put me on dialysis. Let me finish this. And I walked in that morning and I was like, I need to go now. Like, please put the line in now. Like, I'm so unwell. So when Dina's like, at that point at 23 years old, I had graduated. I was like, okay, fine. If I'm going back on dialysis, I'm doing it now. I was really, really sick. So my messages of, I have a transplant, like I might have a match. Were real excitement, because I was really, really not okay. Really not okay at that point. Yeah. And then Dina did what she did. The surprise at Starbucks.
What was your reaction to Dina breaking the news?
Dina, do you want to talk about how you, like, the idea, like,
yeah,
how
so we tried to lighten it up. I came with Sarah Bloom, my coworker, because I was like, I need support and they're gonna need support. Like, we need to like have help here,
But this is weird, because we would go to Starbucks all the time. We were always hanging out.
Yeah, let's meet up, let's go get coffee or whatever. But then we were like, I was like, why doesn't your mom come? I think maybe we didn't meet for a while, so it was like, hey, great opportunity, you and your mom, let's go for coffee. Like, so we tried to lighten it up a bit, because we were like, we knew it's going to be really intense. So Sarah came up with this idea. We took a little like it's a kidney tray, like that's what people throw up in hospitals, and it's the shape of a kidney, and I think they call it a kidney tray or something like that. And we were going to fill it with like kidney beans, but we're like, that's lame, who wants kidney beans? So we got a whole bunch of like jelly beans kind of in the shape of kidneys, and we were like, and we were like just like sitting there, and we were like, oh, I brought you something, and like that wasn't like that was pretty typical for us. Like, we always like, we bring gifts and stuff, and she was like, oh, cute, like, like, you're giving me a bowl of jelly beans, it's so weird, but like, and then we were like, no, I have a kidney for you, and she's like, haha, so cute, because we were celebrating that she had a match. And then we were like, no, seriously, like, I'm giving you a kidney, like. And we actually, like, I probably have it on like archived videos, because like we videoed it. But, like,
I remember watching it.
Yeah, Sarah.
It was a lot of shock, a lot of like, it just took a few minutes to like, really like register like what that was.
I just looked at you and I was like,
yeah,
all like the tears were
your mouth was open. It was just like a real like, yeah. It was, I remember we told the barista, you're like, she's donating a kidney to me. They had no idea what was happening. Like,
this was after my recovery. I needed, like, I was actually I was unwell. Like, I was like hyperventilating. My makeup was all over my face. Like, I was like,
right.
First thing are you sure? Like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you okay? Are you like, I was, oh my God.
It was really intense. It was really intense.
And this is a Starbucks. Like, you know how busy Starbucks is? Like, the three of us.
Yeah. Your mom like stood up and went outside, and I was like, Sarah, go, like, I think you need to go, like, go make sure she's okay. She's like, I need to breathe, I just need to breathe, like, because it was like going from having a kidney that was coming from a stranger to like a kidney that was coming from someone that you really know, and like, it was a really big shock. It was a really big shock.
Yeah I mean, that's put lightly. Yeah, it was a huge shock.
Yeah, I remember like that night, you're like, are you sure about this? Like, I'm like, girl, I did all the testing. Like, we're good. Like,
yeah. And again, nonchalant. Like, yeah, the kidney beans is because it's me. I'm giving you the kidney. Like, this is on video. And I was like, sorry, what?
Yeah.
What?
There was actually a point like when we first started the process and you started looking for a donor, that I was like, okay, cool, I got this, I'm going to do it. And then they actually had a different donor that was already tested for somebody else. And like, for whatever reason, that one fell through. So they're like, well, that's great that you want to donate to her, but like, we have another guy. And I just started the process, and then that other guy fell through, and they're like, we have another guy who's like way ahead in the process. So we're going to put him in instead of you. And I was like, I mean, obviously, like, for sure it wasn't a question, because you needed a kidney right then, and it was for you. It wasn't like about me. And then, but I remember like that night being like, oh, I was disappointed. Like, I was like, I feel like I lost like an opportunity to help someone, like, I was like, I was so happy that you're getting what you needed. But like, for me, it felt like, oh, like, I really wanted to do that for you, and that's when, after that, that's when I realized that like, no, I really wanted to do it. Like, it wasn't like I just got caught up in testing or I got like too far into the process. It was like the disappointment of like not being allowed to go forward was like a real disappointment for me. And like, that was like a moment that I remember, so that when they called me back, it was like not even like, it wasn't a question. It was like, oh, amazing. Like, I mean, it was unfortunate that, you know, the other guy, it didn't work out for whatever reason, we don't know. But I was 100% sure when they called me back that, like, you know, I wanted to go ahead with it.
Marty, does the term Bashir come to mind in this moment?
I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's usually used in a different context, but certainly.
No, it can work here.
It's like just totally meant to be and happen. I mean, with the whole relationship, the way you guys kind of just melded together and just carried on throughout, and then you got to this point. Were you still a High Lifeline client at this point?
But you were aged out, kind of, right? Like, you were over
23. I was 23. So I don't think so.
And also, I did officially take you off my list. I actually handed you over to, like, I think that was like one of Morty had a few requirements. That was one of them that I had to, like, I was like, Sarah, like, you know, I'm changing in our database. Like, she's no longer my client. She's yours. Yeah.
You guys were like became like really good friends outside of it and continued on and then allowed this to go into this direction.
That was something really important. Like, she told me, and then we told my mom, but it was, the worry was still like, are you sure? Because we have such a close relationship, and she knew how bad things were really at that point. So it was that, like, that, oh my God, like, yay. But then 1 second, like, are you sure? Because this is a huge thing to be doing. So if you're not sure, it's okay. And it was so much of that up until the transplant. Like, are you sure? It's no, like, if you back out or you don't want to do it, even the morning up, it's fine. Right. Like, just, it was so much worry on making sure that she was okay on both my mom and I, and like both, we were always talking like, okay, and if she doesn't, it's fine. I'm on dialysis, like, I'm stable, like, things are fine, like, it's fine. Like, Dina, are you sure? Are you okay? You don't have to do this.
Right.
Because it wasn't just like, she wasn't just like a stranger. She wasn't just a case man. Like, this is someone I cared about going into a surgery too, going and doing this type of thing. Yeah.
Did anybody ever try, like, I mean, aside from Eden and her mom, like, ever try to like talk you out of doing this or
me
direct you out? Yeah,
I can imagine.
No, you know, I'm a little bit of like a free spirit, so I'm like down to do most things. Like, so I'm like, I was like, this is like my mom was
skydive, kidney, like, what's the difference?
Before I started, like, I was advised to like knock out like the people before going through any like make sure that everyone in my life was okay with it before I would start testing and like do medical things. Like, don't go through that and then like have like a family member be like, we're not supporting that, right? So I did. I went to the people that were important to me, and you know, obviously they were worried. Most people actually, like, their reaction was like, haha, like they thought I was joking. Like, they were like I remember I like sat my mom down. It was like one night I'm like, I think I'm gonna donate a kidney, and she's like, okay, cool, like, so let's like get dinner. And I'm like, no, like, I'm serious, like, that's not like so she was definitely the most concerned about it. And at the time, my husband now at the time was also pretty concerned. But I think the more I explained what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it, and also like the process of it, to both of them, they felt a lot more comfortable. And I also tried to like support them through it. Like, my husband came to meet with the doctors and ask all the questions that he wanted to ask. And you know, I think they saw how serious I was about it. So they all, like, everyone supported me 100%. There was no one that was against it. And they're all really proud of me. Like, I didn't even, like, I was out, and like my sisters all live in Israel, and they were all like, like they were all like on their chats, and everyone was like discussing it, and it was really nice. Like it felt like I woke up and like read through all our messages, and I was like, I felt like I really had like a supportive like cheering squad. So that was awesome. Yeah, nobody tried to talk me out of it.
That's actually something we never talked about, but it's good. I had no doubt that someone would. I was like, no way, your mom, no way, I think it was just your fiance at that time, right?
Yeah.
Like you were engaged. And that was another thing my mom kept up. We're like, like get married first, have kids first, and then do this. Like you're still young, like don't, just. And my mom kept asking the doctors, like she can be married, right? And she can have kids, and anything she wants to do in her future is okay, right?
Which is, we also asked that because like, I didn't go into it irresponsibly. I asked all the questions. We really did. I went through all the questions. I, tried to think of whatever it would be. And they actually, the way the hospital has it set up, I think is very smart. You had a team and I had a team, and they didn't talk to each other because they don't want any bias, right? So like my doctor was looking out for me. She wanted to make sure it was the best idea for me to do this, that I was in the best shape and the best health for this. Like there was no, like, she never met my recipient. So she never like had that feeling of like, okay, but like, it's okay that she's, her recipient really needs it, so let's like overlook that, right? Like they were like, no, we're your doctor. We want to make sure that you are completely like appropriate for this whole, in every way, like in your personal, they mental health, like everything. They really go all across. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. And just knowing Dina, only after finding out, we were asking my team the same questions. Like, you be honest with us. She's going to be fine, right? Like, you make sure this person's really, really important to me.
Right.
We were also.
It's such an incredible thing to think, Eden, that everything that you were going through, and you're still thinking about other people throughout the whole process. It's really, it's an incredible thing. And this whole story, it always just gives me shivers, and it's such an incredible piece and to my involvement with High Lifeline over the years, and for both of you, I can't thank you enough for sharing this story, and I don't know if either of you have anything else you wanted to add to this before we kind of start to wind it down.
I would do it again if I had another one. Like I think that
You do.
Oh,
I need that one. I do need that one.
You definitely do need that one.
Yes. But I think it was like the greatest honor for me to be able to do something like that. I know that it's not for everyone. Not everyone is able to do it. Not everyone in a lot of different ways are not able to do it. And for me, it worked with who I like, with my belief system, with who I was. Like it really like made sense for me to be able to do this. And I think it was the greatest honor. Like I really feel like I did, like, I did something really special, and I'm really proud of it. So. And I'm really proud that it's Eden, because I'm like, the amount of like good that she's like spreading in the world. I'm like, I mean, like, that's awesome. Like, I take a tiny credit for that, because I'm like, my kidney's doing that good work too, right? So, yeah.
There's a little bit of you in all of that. That's incredible.
I need to give credit where credit is due, because my life would have ended at 23. And I think I need to be very, very blunt about that, because that was the reality. Dina absolutely is the reason. She needs to take all of the credit for anything that I've done since my transplant, which will be 4 years in September. I went and got a master's degree. I have a job that I love. I'm in a 5-year relationship that I'm so happy to be in. And I adopted a dog. I moved out. Like, I got to travel to Israel and see my whole family in Israel again. Like, anything that I've done since 23, since that kidney transplant, dancing at Dina's wedding 3 months after she donated a kidney and after I got a kidney, anything that has happened to me that I've done, anything, I give Dina credit for. I wake up every day, I thank Dina. My mom is the exact same way.
Your mom sends me texts all the time. It's like, I'm still praying for you. Like.
So like Dina, like, will never kind of give it the credit that I feel like it needs, because she talks about it so nonchalantly. But like anything that I've ever done, anything that I've ever gotten, anything that I will be doing in the future, like, is only because she absolutely, like, no exaggerations, saved my life. Like, there's no softer way to put that at all. I woke up from a kidney transplant and mom's like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, you know, when you get a new phone and you peel that plastic off, everything is just clearer. I'm like that. I woke up saying that. And I woke up asking how Dina was. Like, she absolutely saved my life. Like, I like, you need more credit. No more credit needs to go to that, because you are so chill about it. I don't know how else to put it. But anything I've ever gotten, and every day from September 26, 2018 forward, I give Dina credit for it, because I would not literally have been able to do it without her. So
wow, the gratitude is just incredible. Just incredible.
I love her. This is my sister. This is my big
Blood
sister.
sisters now.
Sisters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Matching scars and all. For me, especially, I know I was talking to you about Eden about it before we were recording or anything, but like, this really hits close to home for me as well. During COVID, my dad was actually diagnosed with kidney failure, and he's been on dialysis since. He went into the hospital petrified as anything that he may not come out, or COVID's going to get him or something like that. He went in weighing 260 pounds. He came out weighing 145. He was in a coma for about a week. Didn't know what was going on or anything like that. So like, hearing the story, hearing everything that you went through, and being able to get through it, and the support and the love and everything you had going for you, and everything on the other end. And I see there's a very similar story coming on his side as well. He's gone through all the testing now. He's actually going to be at Toronto General as well at some point. My wife is an OR nurse at Toronto General as well, so she's kind of scoping out the surgeons right now, seeing which ones are the good ones for him. But like, it's nice to see, and it's amazing to hear the positivity that someone going through all of this, like starting off blind, having kidney failure, ending up where you are now. It's honestly, it's a beautiful story. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, truly incredible. And I think, those takeaways that we talked about throughout the story, from, staying positive and the naivety of a young child, to, as you got older, understanding your situation, being realistic about it, but being positive, but still maintaining that positivity, caring for others, even while you're going through something else yourself, understanding that when you meet somebody and, you don't really know what's going on behind closed doors, and just the gratitude, it's just so, you exude that when you talk about Dina, and it's so incredible. So, I want to say thank you so much. I know how personal the story is to both of you, and sharing it in this manner is it's no small thing. And we at High Life Wine Podcast really appreciate that. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for giving us the platform and
Yeah.
sharing. I will talk to anyone who will listen. I'm so proud of this, and I'm thankful for this. I know that, Bryan, you sharing your story, there's a lot of people in really, really hard situations. You don't know what anyone is going through. No one knows where we'll end up or how things go. But I think it's, really trying to focus on what you can. What do you have control over? What can you be doing in the moment? Like, what are the things that I can take control over, and how can I think about these things is really important. And yeah, I mean, I think getting the support, really reaching out to the people around you, caring about them, tell the people around you how much you love them and appreciate them, even if they didn't donate a kidney to you, right? Like, it's all of it. It's really just recognizing who's around you. Appreciate it. Always appreciate everything.
Yeah, I had no idea, Bryan, that this was so appropriate for your family circumstances right now to hear. So I hope you'll share this with your dad.
No, it's honestly, like, it was great to hear this kind of positivity come out of it. It really is.
You never know what
Thank you.
going through.
Thank you very much for sharing. Both of you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you both. Thanks for letting me join this week.
Thank you, Orly, for joining. Hopefully you'll come back again.
More than welcome to. I'm loving this. This is great. It's better than watching Netflix.
This is true.
Oh, ouch. I don't know. Ouch.
Much. Although, Eden, one last thing. What were the shoes?
Oh,
Yeah, I
sure.
was like, show us the shoes.
What are the
Vons, were they
shoes?
Pradas?
They were red bottoms. They were
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
I worked 2 entire months to save up the money just for those shoes. It was like a dream. It was like red bottoms.
Yeah.
I hope you wore them to some awesome events and parties.
I wore them one time because they're the most uncomfortable shoes in the entire world. And then I sold them to anyone that would take them. I was like,
you're amazing.
I never want to see these ever again.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But you wore them. That's the important thing.
But I wore them, and I wore them in a way I wanted to.
Exactly, right?
Matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was great. Amazing.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank
definitely
you.
Nice to
keep
meet
up with
you.
guys. Thank you, Eden and Dina, for taking the time to share your incredible story with us. There is so much to dissect from this conversation and your relationship. I followed up with them both after the conversation because I wanted to know how they recovered and what they did after to celebrate. Dina was getting married a few months later. Well, there's no better way to celebrate than having them both there. And that's just what they did, which is absolutely incredible. They may not be in the same country anymore, but they will always remain a very big part of each other. Thank you to the listeners for taking the time to listen to Eden and Dina's story today. I hope you were able to take away a lot of hope, resilience, and strength from this story. And if you are enjoying what you're hearing so far, don't be shy. Drop us that 5-star rating and leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Until next time. On Air with Chai is a Chai Lifeline Canada project produced by myself, Bryan Strasberg, hosted by myself and the Chai Lifeline Canada Executive Director, Mordechai Rothman. Guests are booked by Orly Davis, and graphic design is done by Candice Alper. On Air with Chai is edited by myself, and the music is provided by Music Unlimited at pixabay.com. To learn more about Chai Lifeline and how you can help us, please visit our website at chailifelinecanada.org.